unfortunately, with the flu, but don't worry, it's a webinar, so that means that you will not get anything. um, so we're going to talk today about partnering activities in mobile devices. Now, many times when we talk about this, um, the TESOL webinars, a lot of them have to do with language teaching, but today's emphasis, even though we're going to talk about language teaching, it's actually, this is really great for any activities with mobile devices in other courses as well, because I've taught several subjects in several different age groups from 2 to 80 years old. So the great thing about pair activities is when you have mobile devices, is many of us probably, like me, don't have a class set of mobile devices. So if you don't have a class set of mobile devices, this is one great way to really get your um, your students to really start wanting to share devices, and it really helps you with a classroom full of devices, how to kind of spread them out and get a great use out of them. Personally, since I started using mobile devices with students, I prefer my students to partner up or to share mobile devices in small groups. I really, I think individual is okay, but I really prefer them to share. And there's a lot of reasons for this. One of them is because it extends our resources. But for students, learners, like young learners, kids, and also when they're learning English as well, first of all, it gets them to speak more. It gets them to speak to each other, and a lot of the language is emergent, so it's language that comes from them because they have to be able to communicate and problem solve together with the mobile device. So it's teaching them higher order thinking skills that way. It forces them to work together to solve a problem, which is a great thing to teach our students. The other thing it teaches them, if you're in a bring your own device setting, which I have been in quite a few times in several different countries, is it teaches your students that not all of them have the same device, that around the world they're going to have different things, and how we respect that of each other. And that's something to really teach our students. I was teaching in Greece, and we were teaching refugees, and we asked them to bring their own device. And the students, well, the majority had a cell phone. It was just regular cell phone. So they did, because cell phones are now considered a staple. Um, but one of the students didn't, and one of the things that I really love seeing, because so many argue and say kids are going to fight and they're going to be mean to each other and they're going to tell each other um, mean things when they don't have the same thing, when somebody has an iPod and somebody has just regular cell phone. But I didn't see that. What happened was the other ones who had the devices and the ones that didn't said, here, share mine, let's work together. And I thought it was just great. So I think our students will really begin to see, they'll surprise you and show you how great they are with sharing as well. But there's a lot of benefits of pair work as well. Scaffolding, you have one student that teaches another some really great techniques. It's great because sometimes you'll see your students, they're really quiet and they're not very, like, maybe they're not great with the subject matter, but they're very good with the technology. That tends to be the case, where one of the students is so good with using a mobile device or something like that, but they're not necessarily the greatest at the subject. And so they can learn from each other. The one that's really good with the mobile device can really learn with the one that's very good at the subject matter, and it makes them both feel like they know they can bring something to the table. It's better classroom management. I'm going to show you some classroom management tips that I think are really important to make this more successful for you. And it builds relationships. It's really important nowadays that we build relationships with our students, because it eliminates things like name calling, um, online bullying in the classroom. So these things are, and plus when your students work well together, they build a support group and they help each other out, and you can just see it in the classroom. This has always helped my classroom. And and what I have found is that when my students work together and we had a great classroom um, support system, that all my classrooms, just in hindsight, they did really well on their tests. They always had the highest scores and everything like that. I know that's something we worry about. And the thing is that our students, I think they feel more confident, and then they start doing their work more, and they start learning from each other more. And I think the other things just kind of come into place. Because I've never really taught to the test or anything like that. That's not something I believe in. But I've always had really high scores with all my students. Okay, so when pairing your students, here's a few things to consider. At the beginning, you should do it, I believe, with a purpose. There's a few reasons why, because you want to make sure it's very successful in the first go how. Not saying that these are guaranteed to make it completely successful, but this will ease the situation. So think about pairing students based on their technologies. You can do surveys at the beginning. That's what I do. I usually ask my students, what kind of technologies have you used? Have you used cell phones? Have you used Facebook? And what apps? Things like that. Have you played video games? Just so I know their tech skills. Their language skills. So you can place someone that's more powerful with another. The subject knowledge. Who knows the subject knowledge really well? Maybe someone who doesn't. Leaders, those that you see in your classroom that are really good about being classroom leaders. You may want them to be the leaders of the group. Not if they're the bullying kind, the kind of caring leaders. And a lot of times you can see that right away. And this makes for really great good pair work, especially with. And then personalities. You don't want to, at the beginning, force two people who don't want to work together. Eventually, yes, that's a great thing to do. But at the beginning, when you want to pair them, we want to make these successful pairs. So they won't look at it as a bad experience working together, but they'll look at it as a positive experience. Preparation. Well, there's a lot of preparation that you do want to do for it, just like you would do with any other kind of subject, and any kind of task. If you do this with a plan, then it's going to be more successful. And then I'll get into the activities, okay? But there's a questions process. So how are they going to ask you questions when they need help? Because they're going to need help from you. And you can't be spread out everywhere with all the pairs, so we'll look at something for that. Have a lot of times there's stations, and if you have stations, you can have like a shoebox full of all the materials, or sometimes teachers have materials spread out in one area, and then they give them a sheet, like a checklist, and then the students, there's one person who goes up and they get all the materials that they need. Hardware, software, make sure, do you want to make sure that all the apps are downloaded ahead of time? Do you want to make sure that they know how to use these apps? Video tutorials on how to use the apps on a wiki page, checklist. How are they going to report the information when they finish it? Are they going to present it on maybe like in front of the class? Are they going to do it and embed it on a wiki, on a blog post? What are going to be their tasks and roles? Who's going to be the leader? What is he going to do? So these are all things that you want to think about. So I'll tell you a few things that have helped me. There's the cup system, okay? And this works with small groups as well. So what you do is when they're working in pairs together, you get them to have these 3 cups, okay? And they're stacked on top of each other. Now the cups are usually blue, green, yellow, blue, and red. But I couldn't find cups that color, so we're stuck with these cups. And then what you do is the top is their status. So yellow is sunny and bright. Everything's all right. Blue, we're through. What are we going to do? And red, we have a problem we cannot solve alone. Sometimes the teachers will wear a scarf. And when a teacher wears a scarf, that means, hey, or a tie, for the men, a tie. And that means I'm busy helping another group. When I'm finished, then I'll go to you. So that's another part of this as well. Let me give you some great apps and ideas. So here's one very simple idea. You can do this at the beginning. Very easy pair work activity. And when you're starting classes in January, you get them to interview each other. We do something called a 3-2-1 introduction. So 3 things. Okay, so the one, you pair them up, and then one student asks the other, what are 3 things the class should know about you? What are your 2 favorite foods or 2 favorite places, 2 favorite music, 2 favorite bands, 2 favorite animals, 2 favorite actors, actresses, it could be whatever. And one, what is the one thing you want to do when you grow up, or what do you want to do in your life, you know? Okay, so that's 3, 2, 1 type of interview they can do. You can either have them do that or preset questions, have them come up with their own. You can give them a list of questions and then they choose from that, or they can come up simply, you know, with your own, and then you can have them peer review and look at the questions to make sure that they're asking the right questions. And then what you do is you have them take, uh, even regular cell phones have a recording audio device. So they just take one of them and then they just record it on the regular audio. You don't have to have an app for it. You don't have to have it connected to the internet or anything like that. It usually records an MP3 of it. Now, in case you do want apps, I'll show you some great apps for interviews. But role play is around the same thing, so these apps kind of work together. Role play is really good because this is where they pretend to be somebody else. And this is really great for many subjects. It works well in history. It works really well in English classes, English language classes, and drama classes, but even in math and science classes, because they can pretend to be role-playing characters and maybe like a word problem, because usually in word problems they have something like Judy went to the mall with Marcus and they bought 3 pairs of shirts each, and then they'll say something, so one can pretend to be Judy and one can pretend to be Marcus, but they get in together. And then these are some of the things they could do. They could be characters in the book. They could have dialogues that they write themselves between historical figures. They could be characters impacted by a situation. So it could be something like, even like a scientific, you're teaching about volcanoes or something, then they could pretend that they are role-playing people who were actually like in a tsunami or something like that, that really took place. And then they learn about it in kind of a first experience point of view. But there's so many different role plays you can do. So these are some apps that are really great for interviewing and role playing. Sock puppets. They will love to use the sock puppets app. Now, if I can find my, oh, okay. So I have my iPad. It's not only in the iPad, it is actually also in the iPod and iPhone as well. But sock puppets is really fantastic and great. It's really fun. Adults love it as well because I always force my adults that I'm training to use this app, so they really enjoy it. But kids love it. I've used it in Brazil and Turkey, all kinds of countries, and you know the students, they just really really love it. So let me see if I can bring it up here. I had it before, so are you sock puppets? Um, oh, well, it might not be here. But sock puppets is a really great app. So they select the sock character. They can select more than one. You can even select 3, and then they select a background. They can choose which background they want. Some move in the back, and some just stand still. And then they select different types of props. The red ones don't move, and then they record a video. It comes up on YouTube. That you do need an internet connection for, but you don't need an internet connection once you download the app to have the video come up just regular on the actual device. And the funny thing is, and don't tell them this, but the socks already come with their own funny voices, but it's funny because the kids will make their own funny voice with it. So they always come up with great. Puppet Pals is really great. It's gotten better. It's a lot like sock puppets. One of the things that's a great thing about Puppet Pals is they can actually upload pictures of themselves, so they can make their own custom puppet. The great thing is they have characters too, realistic characters like Obama and things like that. So if you're teaching history or something like that, or a Western or something, then it's really great to kind of go along with those kind of role plays as well. Or they can always draw the characters from a book, draw the animals they're learning, so it really supplements or supports whatever theme that you're teaching, because they can draw and they can upload those actual characters. And it's really fun for students to be able to see things that they did scanned and then uploaded on an app. They think that's fantastic, and then they make a video of it, and then it makes it even more special because they made the drawings, they made the background. So it's a really great app. Both of these are free apps. They do have you pay for extras. So if you want extra characters, like I think maybe Obama and some of those premium characters might be things you have to pay for. Reporting the news. So this is what your students do is you give the para topic to report from either the unit, the chapter, or the lesson, whatever it is you're teaching. Instead, give it to them to teach. So you're just switching it around. You're saying, okay, so we have all of these sections within the chapter to teach. So this para student is going to teach this, and so you're breaking it up. You're jigsawing it, and then we're going to come together and we're all going to learn from each other. Um, the pairs turn into a newscast, so they have to do the summarizing of it. They take a section and then they summarize it. They have to take it and they have to summarize it in their own words, so it really does help them as part of the Bloom. And then they make it into a short news bite, and then they have to capture footage with their mobile device because and you can do this offline because you can record video with a lot of cell phones and things as well. There's a great app to do this with. It's free and it comes in Android as well. And this is Talking Ben and Tom News. So it's really great because the news footage comes in here and it creates a video and it goes on YouTube as well. But of course you need the internet just to upload the video to YouTube. But it'll make the video on the device. And then you have Ben, and then you have Tom, and they're both acting as news reporters, and this is the video. So they both can talk, and they can talk over whatever they recorded. So it's great for that. VoiceThread.com. VoiceThread is one of my favorites. Because it's online as well. So if you're in a situation where you have a laptop and you have different devices as well, and you're sharing that, then this works well because VoiceThread you can have on your laptop as well or on a regular computer. And so they can report the news this way. Each of them can upload their different news items or stories, and then the pair can get together and they can tell the different news bites, and then you can have different people comment on those news bites throughout the day. You can share it on the school website, or you can share it with parents, and then maybe if you do this as a weekly event, then each of them, this is the news of the week, and then you can have the whole community kind of get together and to add comments, which really, really helps them a lot. Linowit. Linowit is a sticky note app. It's really great. It works on Android as well as iDevices, and I think Windows 7, pretty much any kind of device. And what it does is it allows them to put sticky notes. And then you can put videos, you can put pictures. It's really great for brainstorming. So when your pairs are getting together and they want to brainstorm something, it's a great way for them to do that. Or maybe they want to gather supporting materials. So let's say they're coming up with a newscast and they have the video there of the footage, and then on the sides they have like what it leads to or what's the page number that it reflects off of, or there's a lot of things that they can do with it. It's great for organizing a presentation. So if you have them get together and then you want them to present something, then it is a great way because they can move the sticky notes as well. Think, pair, share. That's another type of cooperative learning type of activity. So each student gets 3 to 5 minutes to jot down the topic knowledge, the avenues of research, and the relevance. And then the students get into pairs, and together they compare their notes. You give them about 4 or 5 minutes, and then you say, okay, now you have to sync your information. You have to say what you got from this information. And so let's say you do a lecture. I know some of us lecture sometimes, or we say things. And make it a short lecture. Make it very short, maybe 10 minutes or something. Or and then get your students while you're doing the lecture to write down their notes. And then they can do this. They get together in pairs. They compare what they have, okay? Because this will make it fun, and this will make it to where they actually digest the information and where they get the most important parts out of it. And that's what we want them to do. Is we want to increase their note-taking skills and stuff, and for them to do this. So then what they do is they get into pairs, they compare the notes, and they say, well, we both had this, so this must be important information. And then they get an app such as Poplet, or they can use the app Prezi, and then they pull all of that together in a dynamic multimedia presentation. And that way they have visual and they have audio materials to support what they have gathered from whatever you have shared with them. And this makes it much better for different types of learners. So this is what Poplet is. It is on iDevices only, unfortunately. They do have some mind mapping things for Android. I don't like them as much, but you could use those. The great thing about Poplet is online too. You can use it on your laptop. More than one person can work on the mind map at once. So you can add pictures to it. You can add these little nodes with little branches. So it's just something very quick information. And then we can add links and videos and pictures. So it's very, very cool. It's a great way to use. Camila, I think you've used all of these things. You should be giving this with me. Camila, if you have any links to the what your students did with these, please share them with us so we can see different types as well of the students using this. That would be fantastic. Thank you so much. Prezi has gotten way better. They have a different type of formatting system and stuff. Prezi has now, they have video. So they make the whole entire presentation into video that you can embed. And they have Creative Commons music to go with it. This is something entirely new in Prezi. More than one person can work on Prezi. You can use this on your iPad, but you can also use this online as well. So if you have Android and things like that as well, then you can actually you can use it tablet based and work on this. This is a simple activity I used to do with my students just with paper and pen, but now it's quite easy to do with different types of apps out there because there are sketch apps. And so you can do it with any type of drawing app, but I'll show you some that are both on Android and they're on the iPad as well. I mean on iDevices. So this is drawing direction. So student A describes an object and student B draws it. I used to do this with monsters when we used to, every time my students learn about characteristics and personalities and things like that. So what they would do is they get a big butcher paper, and then one of them would say, my monster has 3 eyes, and the other person would draw the 3 eyes. And then at the end they compare. So it's drawing directions. They're drawing whatever the other person describes to them. It could be an alien, a new planet, an invention, a monster, or a favorite place. Now, if you're doing a new planet, I've done this and taught science, and they have to explain what the content is. Is it gooey? Is it mushy? Is it what is it? So it really does help with other subjects as well. Now there are a few things you can do this with. You can, but I'll show you those apps in a sec because here's another type of activity that will go with those apps. One of them is real world problems, which I've mentioned before, where students get into pairs. Sorry. They're given written word problems and they create a video of the word problem. So in other words, a lot of times the word problems and stuff, my language learners always struggled with because it makes no sense to them. Some of them have never been on trains, and sometimes it says train A went to this city and it makes no sense. So what it is that the students get a word problem, each of them, to look at, and then they have to figure out how to make it modern. So they have to understand the word problem first, and then they modernize it. How would it be around us locally? What would be ways to make it to where everybody in the class understands? And then they create a video instead of presenting what the problem is, and then other students will try and solve it. Show Me app is really great for this. Show Me app, basically what it does is your students can add pictures, they can add drawings, they can add words, and it records whatever they do. And also it records the steps, it records what they say. So it's good for the Draw Me one because you're recording while the other one is saying what the directions are, you can see the other person drawing it and following those directions, and you can see where the understanding went, where they had a misunderstanding. If they say, "Hey, that looks nothing," I said, my monster had 3 eyes, not 2 or something, then you'll see where the misunderstanding is. And this is what it makes a little video, and you can see this. But also for the word problem one as well, you can see in case the students can slow down, they can look at the steps, so that way they can solve it much better. Yes, it is a free app. There's Edu Creations, does about the same thing. I'm not sure if Edu Creations is a free app anymore. I think sometimes it may not be, but it has other pictures as well. Interactive whiteboard, the same thing. It records the voice, it records the steps. Screenshot, the same thing. Screenshot is really cool because it has different types of library photos, and it has different types of. It makes it look very nice, almost like an encyclopedia. So, Screenshot is another great one too. And finally, let's say that you just have apps that you want to introduce to your classes, and you're not really sure how to do them this new classes. Maybe you're nervous about introducing mobile devices and learning with apps. This is a great way to do it. You get students into pairs, and basically you tell them, some of the best apps I've ever learned about were from my students, because they would have fun with them and they would show me. So this is at Mingle. Basically, it's taking the Mingle idea, and the students get into pairs, and they show their favorite app. They only have like 1 minute, so you can blow the whistle, or you can show your timer, and you can say you have 1 minute to describe your favorite app or show them, and then you have to go. And when you blow the whistle, or ring the bell, they switch to another partner and they do the app again. So this is a great way to get them all to have an app that they share around with the classroom. And it's okay if they have the same apps. That's fine. They just go to another person. Debates. Have students pair, and they argue pro or con on an issue with supporting arguments. They work to. You can have the pairs work together on creating a brief that is pro and con. This is a lot like a Lincoln Douglas debate. I don't know if you've ever done anything like that. And then they go against another pair. You can use the Linowit for that. They can prepare all of their arguments on Linowit. They can have the support materials and stuff. They can even have videos and pictures. So then they can say, well, look, this is the picture that I found. Or this is a link to a letter, an old letter showing blah, blah, blah. So, or a news article. And they have it all there within the app, all there. So they can just take it up, and this is a new way to do their debate and arguing. They can show YouTube newscasts to support their arguments. It makes a very interactive, interesting debate. Imagine that, like they're arguing, and all of a sudden they show newscast footage. Then the rest of the audience is more involved. They're more intrigued. Sock puppets you can use for that, where they debate the different socks debate, puppet pals. You could actually get them to draw the actual people debating. If you're doing it to, say, a debate the textbook to life, so we're about to wrap up soon. The pairs are given a chapter or section of the book and they have to make it interactive, okay? And they incorporate different types of media. iBooks Author is really fantastic for that, but you don't have to have that. Any type of ebook making app, any type of Animoto. Animoto is on, and it's also on Android, and it's on iDevices, which makes it really great. So they just take basically a section of a chapter and they teach it again, but they have to add different types of elements to it. They could use the Poplet, and then you can see the different things that support it with the Poplet, like links to maybe virtual games that they can play. You can find so much information. You can find interviews with people from the past. You can find their letters. You can find different types of really cool things about them, different footage of them in the past. Here are some games that they can play online if you want them to develop their vocabulary. Words with Friends. It's similar to Scrabble. They have a chat box so they can ask each other about the word they shared. You can have each student create an account and they play against each other. And the great thing is they won't think it's homework and they'll play against each other after you're finished with it too. This works good for teens and adults. Scramble is another one. They have to find words like a word search. You can make it more motivating by having like a wiki and then keeping track who wins every month. Now it could be, I know people don't like competition, but at some point, even in high school and older, your students, they're motivated by this. So you could just have it to where they have their tag names. They don't have to have their real names. No one gets embarrassed or anything. It could be voluntary, a voluntary situation where you say, any of you want to be on this, where we track and we see who's, against each other, and then they can do that. Um, there are so many different apps out there that are great for language learners, great for learners in general. Dropbox, Videolicious, um, Sketch is great. Evernote, Digo, Pearltrace. This will be online, so if you can't find all of these right away, don't worry about it because it'll be online and you'll be able to see it. You can go to the bit ELT links to see past different types